Today is the November to December World News Update. Hope you guys are doing well out there. It's been a little bit since I recorded the last video. I just wanted to check in with you guys, hop in here and drop some updates, because there's been a lot of stuff going on in the collective, and there's a lot of things that have been developing and have been playing out in front of the masses and in front of you guys, in front of the world, and it's important to know what's going on. So I always like to make a video when I feel like I have to make a video, where I feel like there's a lot of people who are like confused out there. A lot of people are like, wait, what? What's going on? This is one of those times, because it's like a lot of things have been happening that we kind of already knew that was going to happen. If you've been following world events, if you've been following awakening events in the Ascension timeline, you know what's supposed to happen, you know where we're going, you know the trajectory of the human race and evolution and existence in our own, perpetuating positivity in our own reality. So when things happen, it's easy to decipher them for the greater good, for the positive outlook on what's eventually going to happen. And it helps when you have background on who people are, what they've been doing, what their intentions are, what their agenda is, and how far they've come, and their track record. So this is kind of like, just another update of the things that have been going on currently as of November. Also going to go back to October a little bit, and look ahead a little bit to December. So here we go. So the first major thing that happened was Zohran Mamdani. This guy, just like earlier this month or last month, like late last month, this guy allegedly wins the election for mayor of New York City, which is a big race because New York City is the biggest city in the country, millions and millions of people, plus Wall Street is there. So it's like it's a major victory for anybody who wins that election. So this guy who allegedly won the election, he calls himself a socialist, and this guy isn't a socialist at all. His policies aren't really socialism. It's more or less communism. If you know the two, they're very closely interlinked, and then socialism always starts out as socialism until it turns into communism, which eventually just, starts to destroy communities and societies and people and environments. So you have this guy who allegedly won the race, yet he has all types of policies that are just irrationally cruel and nonsensical to his city that he's trying to win over. And these things that this guy has been forwarding out into the public media has been complete nonsense and just complete garbage and just complete talking points for the left and just total banter for his donors. So he won the race against Cuomo, who was, a past disgraced mayor of New York City. So, it's like New York City's in pretty bad shape. If you win against Cuomo, who was already a bad pick, it's not looking good for New York. Yet he had to cheat to win. He literally didn't even win. First off, there's no voter ID that is necessary to cast a vote in New York. And if you know what New York has been through, they've had a whole lot of undocumented citizens in there for that specific purpose, to get the fraudulent votes for them to put anybody that they want into their elections so they can do whatever they want in the government and control and pass any type of policies for their own fraudulent profit. So you have this guy who Number one is barely a citizen. Number two, who has a agenda against American policies and policies that against freedom, liberty, and basic rights of humanity. Number three, he was on the voter ballot twice. Literally, he was on the voter ballot twice. There's photos of it. It says Zohran Mamdani, and then like it says a couple other people, and then it says Zohran Mamdani, and then it says the guy who he's running against, like next to him, and then another guy who was running against him under that guy, and then it's just like they just had undocumented citizens funneling in and literally voting for this guy, probably twice, and counting the votes twice, because how could you be on the ballot twice? For what reason? You know, besides false advertising, which is another illegality. So this guy allegedly wins, and he's the casted favorite for the donors who want to see chaos ensue in New York City. So once he wins, he starts to call out President Trump. He starts to say, "Oh, Trump, we're going to fight. I don't respect you. You're a fascist. You are going to blah, blah, blah." You know, talking all this garbage to the president, who has complete and total control over the country. And it's not good. So afterwards, here's the kicker. Here's a thing that was really just unsettling and confusing to most people out there. Because Zohran Mamdani is then invited to the White House. So let's see what's going to happen. Because months this guy has been threatening, this guy has been trying to bully, this guy has been trying to call out and aggressively attack verbally the President of the United States. So how's he going to act once he gets there? You know, so it's kind of just like a thing. There's multiple levels of what's happening going on as it's unfolding. So when Mamdani gets to the White House, oh, he's all of a sudden very well mannered. He's completely quiet and well reserved. And he's got body language like this, and he's standing there like a gentleman, and he's standing there just saying, "Oh, yes, 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 yes. Right. Now, I do agree, however, this is what I meant by what I said, that Trump is a fascist." And just all these things that just completely just fell apart once this guy walks into the Oval Office. It's just like, well, what happened? You know, what happened? So here's actually what happened. Mamdani wasn't a guy who was supposed to fall in line immediately. He was a guy who was set up by donors to try to, you know, push their Agenda 21 into play into New York City, which is like, it's like the globalist mecca for, it's the epicenter. It's like almost like Washington D.C. If the globalists can't get Washington D.C., they want to take New York City. So they set up this guy to run there and get a office seat there so they can make this guy do whatever he wants, pass all types of stuff, get all types of people in the country, set up all types of child trafficking rings, drug trafficking rings, money laundering rings, all types of stuff, so they can continue to profit and do whatever they want and go to war against all creation. That's literally why Mamdani has been elected, or falsely been elected, because he didn't win the race and put into office. So when President Trump sees this, he literally just say, "Hey, this is, I know who you are, I know what you're planning to do, and I understand why you're planning to do it and who's working with you. So here's what's going to happen. You're not going to do that. We have you monitored. This has been a long-going conflict and secret war underway that we've been fighting between positive military and dark military, from space down to the surface level. Like this what you're doing is not going to work. So we can either work this out, or we can make your life a living hell. But you can either save face and come to the White House, and you can accept our terms of negotiation, and you can look like a gentleman, and you can look like you didn't go back on everything you said about the current administration, or you can be forcibly taken out of office. So that's how it goes. You know, that's literally how it goes. So that's why you see Mamdani, this guy who's been like yeah, we're gonna fight Trump, blah, blah, blah. That's why you see the next day just, oh, yes, Mr. President, yes. I did call you a communist, however, it's okay. We're working together now. It's because you have a leader who's actually in office who knows how to deal with reckless teenage kids like this when they get into high places and they're paid to do anything. Like people like Zohran Mamdani will get paid, will accept money to do absolutely anything, to say anything, to show up as anybody, to steal any type of culture, to steal any type of talking points, and to present themselves as any type of culture to get any type of power, influence, or any type of recognition that they feel like they want, or they feel like they need, or they feel like they desire. So that's just what happens. That's literally just what happens. And it's fun to watch this stuff because you see, oh, like last month this guy was all rah, 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 this guy, and now he's like shaking like a leaf, you know? He's just standing there completely quiet, completely silent, not willing to actually say anything he was saying while he was on a stage surrounded by a whole bunch of people who were just cheering him on because he was making noise. So that's what happened there. So the next thing that happened that I didn't get a chance to talk about was the conflict ending in Palestine. That was a huge deal, huge. President Trump was actually able to get a cease deal signed with Israel, which is massive. That was a huge thing. Like I always said that what was going to happen. President Trump was going to do it because he was working on it last time. Because he didn't even start the war. That was the Democrats who started the war. Biden started the war and then started this crazy conflict with Israel, who's had this war machine, you know, attached to a break-off civilization from Antarctica, who wants, you know, who are Nazis, who basically wants the death of all, you know, who they think that are unclean or impure, to ethnic cleanse specific regions of the world because it's their right. You know, so you know that's a hard war to stop. When you try to stop something like that, it's not easy. So President Trump actually ended up getting this done, and he actually ended up doing the things that nobody else could do, which was huge. It was like majorly huge. He deserved the Nobel Peace Prize. So he worked with Israel, and he got Israel to actually heal. He got Israel to like literally stop, you know, shooting off missiles like every day, or every week, you know, and they were doing it for no reason. They're genocidal maniacs. So he got them to stop doing it. One of the ways he got them to stop doing it is saying like, hey, nobody likes you. If you continue to do this, the world is going to hate you, dude. Like him talking to what's his name? I don't even know his name. Bibi, the guy who runs Israel. He's like, if you don't stop doing this, nobody's going to like you. You're going to lose all your money because you're going to be spending it all in war because we're not going to help you with anything any longer. And you're putting your country at risk for more conflict from your surrounding areas. Like, you know, it's like, it's not something you want to do. Also, when you go into war, you take trade deals off of the table from the United States. And as you know, the United States controls trade with a lot of other regions. So it's like, if you want to get paid, just stop the war, dude. Just stop it. Just stop doing it. So that's like the leverage of negotiation, which is what Trump does. That's like his thing. You know, it's like the art of the deal. It's like, you know, you have to make a deal to sometimes stop genocidal maniacs because it's the only thing they listen to. It's the only thing that they value sometimes is money, or is their self-image, or is how they're viewed in the world, or what they can get out of a situation to make it more self-interesting for them to stop doing something rather than to keep doing something that's going to put them in a place where they won't have as much. So that's what he did with Israel. That's what he did. That's how he stopped the Palestine war. So that was huge. And Palestine, the war stopped. All the refugees went back to Palestine. They're just flooding back in there. Yeah, I don't hear anybody on social media saying anything. Like where's everybody like celebrating in the streets, like dancing? Like, you know, you guys want to go out and protest, but like, where's the celebration gatherings after the Palestine war ends? You know, after the fake president is finally just off somewhere, I don't know, in another clone body somewhere. Joe Biden, whoever, whoever he actually is, he started it, but when the actual president comes back and stops it, everybody's like, oh, well, oh, it was easy. Oh, it was going to stop anyway. Oh, we don't have to do anything now. The war's over. It's just like, guys, wake up. Stop being so desensitized. Stop just absorbing only all the bad stuff that happens out in the world, and when something good happens, you're completely quiet and mute like a mouse. Just please, like, actually stand up and like celebrate or say something when something happens that's good. It's like, if you only respond to bad things, like, what the hell are you doing? You know, it's like everybody's saying, oh, free Palestine, let's go, free Palestine. Well, we get it, Palestine was terrible. It was like a Holocaust for a specific group of people in a specific part of the world. Very brutal to watch. Palestine wasn't something that was supposed to happen. Palestine wasn't a fun time. It wasn't good, not for anybody. So when you look and you see that these things are no longer taking place, please just, I don't know, stop and be thankful. Like, say a prayer of thankfulness, gratitude, for peace on earth. Because when this stuff happens, it's like, it's a wicked evil has been alleviated from the planet, literally. And for people not to say anything, it's gross. It's really gross. And, people only reacting to terrible things. What about positive things? So actually, like, look at these things when they're stopped. Because there's nobody else who could have stopped this. This would have ended up as World War III. It's like, it's awful, So say a prayer, say words of grace and gratitude and thankfulness for being a divine light being who is on earth at this time, who can share in the unconditional love of existing in that oneness and partaking in the defeat of something so radical, and seeing it through, not just protesting and then completely go silent. I don't know, that's just not cool to me. It's not. It just makes you look like a crying baby. Like you don't care about anything that positive happens. It just makes you look ungrateful. So another thing that happened, this happened literally, this news broke like today. Today is November 24th, going into the 25th. The CEO of Campbell's Soup, the soup company, who is like one of those beloved companies who's supposed to be like the heritage, one of the standing pillars of American culture. Their CEO was caught on camera and audio talking about how they make soup for poor people, and their soup is not even meat in the soup. It's not even actual real meat. He says it's geoengineered and altered, and he said it's not even that. It's not even GMO. It's actually 3D printed meat, and these people have to eat it because they have no choice. So it's just like, I wanted to film myself just any Campbell's soup that I had potentially had somewhere in my house, just throwing it out, just throwing it in the garbage can. Just be like companies like this shouldn't be allowed to get away with anything like this. This guy should be thrown in prison for life. He had on the cans, he was putting real meat in the recipe, and that's a complete 100% lie. It's like how can you flip and distort and completely boldface lie to something about what somebody is putting into their body? The trust that somebody puts into a company to actually say, okay, I'm going to eat this. But the company just completely just goes, I don't know, they go Satanist apparently, and throw in and geoengineered and 3D print, I don't know, meat grown in a lab into a soup can and pass it off as real meat. It's just like, that's absurd. So this guy, as he broke federal law, he's going to be prosecuted. He's going to be put into court, and we're going to see what happens. I hope something happens, because something should happen to people like this, because it's not positive. It's not positive to see stuff like this, especially if you were a fan of the company. Now, I personally knew Campbell's Soup wasn't great. It wasn't great, and every time I pass cans of Campbell's soup when I'm in the grocery store, it's something that is like, I'm just like, oh, I don't know if I want to eat that, just by the aura of what the can looks like. It's like a red can, and it's got like this old 1960s logo on it. I'm just like, it kind of looks like something that's from like a nuclear holocaust that is betting on people to eat it because they have no other choice, or because they think it's good when it's actually a lot of chemicals or population control agents in them. So I guess I was right. I guess I was right. So I mean, that's what happens to people when they think that, oh, I'm safe. I can do whatever I want. I can say whatever I want, even though there's a camera rolling. Or it's just like they'll never see this footage. So it's just funny to watch that stuff happen to people. You know. So what I think is that Campbell Soup should actually be. At first, I was thinking they should be put out of business. Like this is like a treachery. This is like a backstabbing. This is like a complete robbery of all the faith the American people and the world have put into this company. Like, they're not allowed to do this, not to anybody. Not to a third world country, not to any country. It's just like, not to a country like America, not to a country like Europe, not to a country like Africa. Nowhere is that okay to put any type of falsely labeled agent into a soup and pass it off as if it's something real. I feel like this company should be restructured and put under audit. Just like they did Twitter when Elon Musk took over Twitter. It's like, all right, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. You can stay, you're cool. You're gone, you're gone. It's just like, like if that's the head of the company saying this stuff, who the hell does he have under him? Like, what the hell else is going on? It's like that stuff with the Coke cans and the Coke bottles. Like back in the day, they would find like all types of stuff in Coke bottles and Coke cans, and just like in the Coke, like what the hell were they doing? Like, why was this stuff in there? It's just like so I would love to see that. I would love to see the Campbell Soup Company broken down and then brought back again as something positive, maybe even something holistic. That would be like the greatest possible event out of that, or effect out of that. That'd be totally cool. So another positive thing about the current administration right now in the White House, they're redoing one of the wings on the side of the White House, and this was a huge story. A couple weeks ago, everybody was like, just and again, they're artificially furious about something that's happening that has nothing to do with anything. Like, the president put up his own money with donors' money who are completely private investors to just redo a part of the White House. And then you have people like, the former First Lady, and you have people like, Hillary Clinton, all of them just saying, oh, it's your house he's destroying. It's just like, so, we're supposed to be mad about the president doing renovations to the White House. Like, why? Like, there has to be some reason why, like, these old washed up, fake politician heads are now trying to guilt trip people into getting mad over a huge renovation that looks awesome to me. It looks like he's going to make it something like incredible, honestly. So you go further into it and you find that because he's like completely redoing one of the wings in the White House, it's offsetting their grid. They have like their little downward star they have in a grid and geometry in Washington D.C. Pointing to who knows where, probably to Saturn somewhere. They have that, and when Donald Trump puts his new ballroom, it's going to offset the geometry. It's going to offset the star, so the star is going to be like not symmetrical any longer, and it's not going to point directly where they want it to point any longer. To where it's who knows where it's pointing? Who cares at this point? So it's like it's positive. It's like it's a huge thing actually. So when you see stuff like this, when you see like news stories like, oh, the president's doing this, watch out, you should feel mad, you should feel bad, you should feel guilty because he's doing this. you put this guy in office. And it's just like, well, we did. We actually did. It's actually like really awesome because these people can't guilt trip anybody. They can't make anybody feel bad for what anybody's doing when people know what's going on. That's the biggest thing. Just know what's going on and look at what's happening, because when stuff like this happens, just like hooray, it's awesome, you know, it's like a positive thing. You don't want like Satanist energy going through Washington D.C. any longer, especially when it's not supposed to be there. It should have never been there. You know, who knows why they put it there? It's awful. Because I remember the first time I found out that the entire White House grid and the Pentagon and the monuments they're all directed in a downward fashion to point somewhere, to like somewhere stupid. It's just like, why the fuck would they do that? You know, it's supposed to be the capital of where we're at. It's not supposed to point to some fucking fake, artificial, fake deity. It's not. So this was awesome to see, because it's a huge symbol in itself. You know, a grid that's a spiral downward is actually being broken. It's being broken in the country. Like, if that's not the biggest sign and the biggest telling point of a positive presidency and a positive administration and positive actions being played out and being enveloped and portrayed and presented to the world, I don't know what it is, guys. I don't know what it is. I don't know what else to tell you at this point. I really don't. So be happy about this, and, you know, rejoice and actually think how good this is for upcoming developments within that area. You know, within that area, besides the crime going down and people feeling safer there, and people feeling safer in other cities where they've been, you know, labeled as murder capitals. You know, I hope there's more architecture torn down and renovated and restructured, where there's obvious Satanist grids just destructed and disassembled and turned off and ungridded. You know, I hope there's more. You know, it sounds like, you know, this is being done on purpose. Because who the hell wants to live in a White House or in a house that's linked into a fake grid like that? Nobody. I wouldn't want to go anywhere or live anywhere near that city, like Washington D.C. I just wouldn't. You know. So one of the other things that happened was the government shutdown. It was the longest shutdown that happened. It lasted actually 43 days, which is the longest in history. And it happened all for nothing. It literally happened all for nothing. When it started, the Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, who's a very well-known pedophile and Satanist and probably racist, he literally said, oh, every day that this government shutdown goes, it gets better for us. Well, I mean, like, there's a lot of things that were happening that wasn't good for anybody, you know. The troops weren't getting paid, the airlines weren't getting paid, food stamps weren't getting paid. Like, what good comes from that? And what was it all for? Oh, it was for illegals to get free healthcare. Why would you need illegals to get free healthcare? What is the purpose for illegals to be in the country? Oh, you want them to funnel into these fake elections, to where you put your fake candidates in with their double-sided voter cards with the same fraudulent candidate on the same card twice, and you want to have them vote for them twice with no voter ID required because they're illegal. They're not supposed to be there. So by the time when your fake candidate gets elected, you can tell him to do whatever you want with these illegals, to show up anywhere and cause chaos and do anything to overrun the city and overrun America. Oh, that's why you want health care for illegals. That's why this is so important. That's why you've been going back and forth with the president with all these types of nonsense and demands for all these billions of dollars to go to these healthcare companies instead of actually like real policies, like putting the power towards the people so people can actually write their own healthcare. So that was huge. You know, it was 43 days of waste of time that actually ended. And after it ended, it was hilarious because guess who's, you know, up for retirement next? Chuck Schumer. Guess who actually retired? Nancy Pelosi. She's gone. You know, it's hilarious. It's actually hilarious because it's like you think like these people actually end up learning and they learn nothing. They actually learn nothing. That's like the biggest loss ever. Like these Democrats, they just continue to make themselves more and more and they just continue to just do the worst. Like they just keep getting worse and worse and worse, and they keep just exposing themselves for like the sick people that they actually are, and it's just like like how could anybody be a Democrat anymore? How? Just how? I don't get it. I really don't get it. So it comes from that. What comes now is like there's a new policy called the Healthcare Cuts Act that's actually going to fix Obamacare, which is completely broken, and actually give the power back to people to get their own health care, and actually cut good deals instead of having these micro little deals where the fraudulent insurance companies get all these massive profits, and then people are stuck paying massive premiums for like no health care. That they only have like four choices, or like 5, 6 choices that are all just terrible choices, from their jobs, from their employers, from just choices that they are only allowed to be given. So that's pretty big. That's also like something that's happening that's positive. And one last thing that's happening, it looks like sometime next year or soon after next year, there's more stimulus checks that are going out to American citizens, and that's huge. Also, it's very huge. I just want people to understand how big that is, because if Joe Biden or Kamala Harris was in office right now, we'd be on the brink of World War III. Grocery prices would be sky high. They'd be trying to get Russia to fire nukes into Ukraine, or they'd be screwing with Russia to get them to react in some type of violent way, to where they want to annihilate Russia, because they don't have a Rothschild bank. They don't have a world government bank. They're completely their own sovereign nation, so they want them gone. And what else? LGBTQ, transgender, transhumanism will be freely and easily accessible to your kids in schools. That type of information and education would actually be recommended to kids, which is alternative sexual information that nobody asks for, nobody cares, nobody wants to hear about that. Nobody cares about what type of sex you're having, especially little kids. They don't care about that. So that would be freely offered to kids. What else? The economy would be crashing. The economy would usually about to completely crash, and America would be on the brink of destruction financially. Everybody would be broke. There'd be no jobs, and there would be a whole lot of lies about how there's more jobs. Just like how Biden continued to do for his 4 years, saying, "Oh, there's more jobs. We're creating jobs," and everybody's shutting down. There's no jobs anywhere. You can't get a job anywhere. The only jobs they're hiring are insurance companies, and nobody wants to work for an insurance company if you ever work for an insurance company. So it's like it'll be lie after lie after lie after lie after lie, and it's just like I don't know how people fall for this stuff anymore. How could you fall for this stuff if you actually have your eyes open and you know what's going on and you actually see what's actually happening in front of your face? It's just like there's no excuse not to believe this stuff any longer. When you continue to look at this stuff and you continue to see this stuff, and then you realize and you look at the results and the guarantee of destruction and death and negativity and poverty and disease and unhealthiness and just complete misery that's going to happen if you have people who are pedophiles, people who are sick, people who are warmongers, people who are who are lying about their own gender, who are completely separate bodies, and who are people who are clones. All these, people who don't believe in peace and love and unity and oneness. People who don't believe Jesus was a positive being. It's just like people who don't believe that like God is good. It's like if you have these type of people who are just trying to get access into office, and then you're voting for them, like there's no excuse for this type of stuff that would happen to you. You have no excuse if you vote for this type of stuff, and it's just like Oh well, people were tired. People were tired. They're so exhausted, so they vote for the Satanist, pedophile, warmonger racist. That's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. It's not. It never will be an excuse. Wake up. Just please. Just it's never going to be a good, valid alibi. It's like, oh, I voted for Joe Biden because I I have the mix. It's like, no, it's not. It's not good. It's not good. It's never going to be an excuse. It's never going to be a good reason to vote for anybody like that. So please just understand where these people come from, what they're doing, and what their intentions are. You know, it's like Zohran Mamdani. It's like this guy is barely American. You know, he shows up and he says, oh, everybody gets free everything. Everybody gets free buses. Everybody gets this. Everybody gets that. And we're going to increase the taxes on everybody. It's just like, well, how would that work? How is that going to work for anybody? You know, you scared all the people who bring in the money into the city out. Once you got your fake election victory, many millionaires who bring in all the tax revenue to begin with has exited the way out of there. Governor DeSantis in Florida is like, hey, come to Florida, guys. We don't have any property taxes. Check us out. So so that's what happened. But a lot of people who made their living in New York and have gone to Florida. And that's how you see great American cities who have been booming in some areas, in some times, in the past, and they just fall into ruins. It's because they ran out of funding. Like, the businesses left. When businesses leave cities, there's no way for the city to run unless they have federal funding. So that's like, that's like a, if you know type of thing for how cities work, how the world works. It's based off money, and it's based off positivity. So if the people who have the businesses don't like the leadership, this is America. They're free to take their business anywhere. They can go anywhere. They can go across the country. They can go to another state. They can even go to another part of the world. So it's like, think about these things when you're voting in your local election. Like, who are these people? What do they want for me? What do they want for my family? What do they want for my kids? What do they want for my environment? Am I safe when I vote for these people? Or are they going to bring in all types of people to take advantage of the gift of a vote that I gave them? Or are they going to stick to their promises and do better than I thought they would? Or will they do exactly what they said they would? Based off that. Base your decision making off that. So one of the biggest things to understand about what's happening right now is that this is actually a quantum unfoldment. Like, the events that have been happening over the past year are never going to happen again. There's never going to be another President Trump again. There's never going to be another positive military takeover again. There's never going to be another defeat of the dark forces. How it has been going on in the past, couple decades. Ever since Kennedy was shot, it was just it was constant battle. There was a military takeover at the end of World War II after the Nazis had allegedly lost, but they actually had, they lost the battle on the ground, but they won the war and got into space and started doing all types of stuff. And they started infiltrating the United States since then. After that, you have the Kennedy assassination. So after that happened, you had a massive break in the intelligences in those alliances. You have now the white hats, and then you have the dark military. And ever since then, these sides have been clashing, and they've been doing things, going back and forth, trying to control the timeline to actually get things to run in specific ways. Because ever since space travel has been unlocked, they've been able to unlock time travel, and they've been able to do all types of things and skip through timelines and be like, I'm going to place myself here, and I'm going to place myself here. Then I'm going to go back and be here again and arrive 3 seconds after I left, and it's like, I never even left. So they've been doing that. They've been doing that, a lot in space, a lot. So if you ever hear any type of stories from SSP experiencers, 20 and back, 40 and back, 60 and back, you hear about these stories. You hear about these stories, like stories from Tony Rodriguez is one. Another from Brandy Kramer is another. Another from Elena, the Star Traveler on YouTube. Check her out. All types of stories, and it's like these types of stories, they're true, they're very true, and they're very literal too. Okay, clones do exist. You can place people into new bodies with portions of their consciousness, and they can walk around as pieces of themselves. It's possible. And you can orchestrate your own timeline for positivity for a development that you want to happen for an entire civilization. If you're powerful enough, if you have a system that is enlightened and high up enough to actually direct these things. And that's what's been happening. It's been happening, you know, on the dark areas, also in the light areas. You have dark controllers who've been trying to get their little positions with their minions and their people and their fake political candidates in the offices and do all types of stuff. And then you have positive people who've like literally transitioned through time the positive way and literally incarnated through their own bloodlines to come the long way and to stay the route and actually be organic, natural positioned person in a body who's completely real and not a copy of anybody else who is just originally themselves. All right, so you can take things for what they are, and you can do your own research. But these types of things are like really happening. They're happening. Okay, they're actually happening. President Trump is one of those people who have transitioned into positivity. He's one of those people who has been like cosmically orchestrated and positioned and placed into a certain area, into a specific place to do specific things to bring about positivity for humanity. You don't even have to ask me. Just look at like what's happening. Look at the history of things that have happened. There's a Hopi prophecy. They said the man in the red hat. The man in the red hat is going to come, and when this guy comes, he's going to make a lot of changes, and it marks a new age for humanity. Without the Hopi. The Hopi are sacred, divine people who have a lot of weight and knowledge and respect and heritage and rapport with Mother Earth, as the stars above as well. So when the Hopi say stuff like this, you don't take it lightly. When the Hopi say somebody's going to come and they're going to show up and they start changing the world, and something like that happens, you listen like, oh, like the Hopi said this was going to happen. Like this isn't something we can just draw up. Oh no, I don't like that guy. Therefore, I'm doing everything opposite. Like no, the Hopi said like this stuff was going to happen, guys. So just please, just listen. All right, listen. And also, if you've been following the Q phenomenon, the Q events that have been taking place, like ever since like 2017, 2016, there's been a military intelligence called Q that's been online. Started on 4chan as an anonymous posting, and they've just been kind of just like dropping hints and saying all these things that were going to happen, that continue to happen. And it's like you had to be there to know, because if you knew what was happening, you were there following it. So when you would read a post from Q, you would say, okay, this is going to happen. And then you look on TV, and then somebody's saying exactly what Q had just posted. Somebody's saying a little snippet of what Q had just posted about who would be saying it. So Q is real. Q is something that has been like positive to follow. And Q actually had posted something way back in the day that had just recently happened last year. When President Trump was shot at, Q had posted fight, fight, fight. And when President Trump got shot at, the first words he said were fight, fight, fight. So it's kind of like, it's another thing that happened. It's another thing that happened. This is something that is not ever going to happen again. There's never going to be another President Trump. Just like when The Simpsons illustrated this guy going down the escalator when he was first elected president. It's just like, and then Trump will say it himself. This stuff is real. Like, The Simpsons had actually, they actually had a lot of stuff that they were projecting and keying into and predicting and getting right. And Donald Trump was one of those. Also, there's a book written in the 1800s. It's about the adventures of a kid who like lived in a castle or like in a big building. His name is Baron Trump, and he's got a friend Don. Some guy wrote this from an office in Washington, D.C. in like the 1850s. So you may want to look into that, because that's really real. That's really real. So what I'm telling you about this guy, what I'm telling you about the current administration isn't some type of like me, I'm some type of Bible thumper, or I'm some type of MAGA head. No, I'm just a light worker. I'm a light worker who can look at synchronicities and put things together and know when things make sense, to say like this is this is it. This is what's happening now. This is what we've been waiting for. This is the culmination of a lot of orchestration that have been put into play that is finally playing out now for everybody to see, because we've been waiting for positivity and for this negative tyrannical overlord fake financial and slavery system to be blown up and stopped and destroyed so we can actually live in peace. You know, we can live in harmony. We can actually live in a free world. You know, I've been tired of fucking just, you know, the world the way it is, and everybody not understanding anything and not willing to look at anything and not wanting to look at themselves and not wanting to wake up and not wanting to see anything for anybody, and have these like fake one-sided looks at everything and ways of not thinking and ways of not processing things just because they don't like somebody, or they don't like where the change is coming from, or they don't like what is happening in a place, or because they've become so jaded that they're not even interested in world events any longer. So therefore they literally start to shut off and they don't believe anything, and they don't even understand, they don't even know that they don't believe anything anymore. So it's like when you see people like that, they just become like shadows and they turn out like everybody else, which is, you know, you get tired of people slowly turning into shadow versions of themselves and always turning up the same, you know, literally the same type of people online saying the same stuff with the same music clips in every single clip that they post. The same exact music clip for the same type of post on the same platform. It's just like people are becoming like artificial clones of themselves. Like they're becoming like artificial copies of themselves. They're just like copy paste personalities. It's just like, guys, wake up! Stop doing the same thing everybody else is doing. Like, be an original. Be a unique person. Like, think for yourself. Like, feel your own emotions. Process your own thought. You know, go your own route. Live your own life. I feel like, you know, people shouldn't have to tell people this, and it's just like, you know, pay attention to the world, pay attention to politics, pay attention to what's happening, and understand that this is a very unique piece of time. This will never happen again. And enjoy it. Enjoy it while you have it, because it's all we have. It's literally all we have. You're going to be alive once, and that's it. You have one life to live. One. Don't spend it trying to be somebody else. Don't spend it, you know, being too jaded to understand what's going on in the world. You know, don't spend it not being able to understand what's happening because you say you don't have enough time to pay attention. It's like, you know, you have to clear your energy. You have to clear your mind. You have to get into your heart, and you have to think from your heart. You have to be there, and you have to understand that your heart has to eventually control your mind. And when you have control over your mind, you then start to awaken and you start to become more enlightened, especially when you understand your brain as a unified field. You know, you work from your midbrain, and your brain becomes one unit, and then you begin to actually interpret the cosmos, and you be able to read sacred geometry, and then you're able to read hieroglyphics from ancient Egypt, and then, you know, it's off to the stars from there. But you have to really start from yourself. You have to start from your heart, and you have to want to awaken. So work on this stuff, and I promise you, deciphering world events, deciphering what's happening, deciphering the trajectory of world events, and the synchronicity that comes from those will become a lot easier. So peace and love. If you guys like a session, do sessions at quantumlight.org. I do a lot of intuitive coaching, numerology readings, custom art. Check that out. I also have my own t-shirt and apparel line now, empath.com. Check that out. Hoodies, t-shirts, hats, everything. Also, organite devices. Get your organite devices. Create a light pillar in your own home and grid your own home into your own living sacred spot, in your own sacred temple. Once you get your home gridded and just aligned into your own energy, and you start riding your own wave, it's like, you know, you're in your own zone. You know, if you're that type of person who likes to be in their own zone, likes to be in their own energy, likes to come home and not be in the chaotic, confused unawareness of the world outside, you want to get your own organite grid. So check that out at empath.com. Peace and love. I'll talk to you soon.